Hey guys, my name's Dan Da Rocha and I'm the Managing Director at both Toxic Games and Mudvark. So it's my first time in Vienna. I'm really excited to be here, so thanks for having me. Today I'm going to be talking to you about funding your first, second and third indie games and share my experience of how I went from being a student to a full-time indie developer. Now the reason I'm talking about your second and third indie games is because sometimes your first game might be a success, but the team maybe splits up after development, or one guy wants to do something else. Things don't always work out, so you have to kind of find funding for the next thing or self-fund with profit that you made from the previous game. So I'm best known for creating the game Cube, which came out on Steam in early 2012. Just a quick show of hands, how many people here have heard of or played the game before? Quite a few people. That's cool. For those of you who haven't seen it, I'm going to show you a quick trailer now. So yeah, that's Cube. It began as a student project in 2009 at the University of Newport in South Wales, in the UK. And it was me and two other guys in the team. We created this short 10-minute demo. And the demo was completely made in UDK with visual scripting. None of us were coders, we were all designers. And we couldn't really afford to hire a programmer at the time. And the programmers on the other course were busy with their own work. So we thought, let's try Visual Script and see if we can make it. And then we ended up making the entire game with Visual Script. Of course, it would have been easier with a coder, but we kind of proved the point that we could do it without one. And then we showed the game at our end-of-year graduation show. And we made this full-on booth with bathroom tiled wallpaper, posters, ambience lighting, and it got a lot of attention from people and lots of good positive feedback on the game. And it was actually Mike Bithell, the creator of Thomas Was Alone, who came along and checked out the game and said it had potential and we should try and go indie with it. But we didn't really know what indie was back then, and we thought, okay, let's see where we can take this. And we were always going to just use this as a vehicle to get a job at a AAA studio or something like that. So the next thing we did was upload the game to a website called ModDB, which is great for sharing mods and indie games and so forth. And within about 2 weeks, we had around 10,000 downloads of this demo, lots of positive feedback from people. And we were kind of amazed by this. We thought, okay, wow, people actually like this thing. Perhaps we can see where we can take this. And then File Planet got in touch, and they asked if they could feature the game on their Spotlight page, and again, more and more downloads. So with this knowledge about people enjoying the experience, we thought, let's continue and actually go out into the world and take it to different events. The first event we went to was the Develop Conference down in Brighton in the UK, and this is like the UK's biggest game industry conference event, and turned up there with the game on our phones and laptops and just showed it around to different people, getting feedback, meeting lots of cool developers, schmoozing some of the bigwigs in the industry. And prior to this, I emailed Epic Games, build, emailed this guy called Mark Rain. And he got back to me and said he really liked the game, thought it was a cool concept. And I told my friend about this. He was like, you do know who Mark Rain is, right? And I was like, yeah, just some dude at Epic Games. And he goes, oh, he's actually the vice president of Epic Games. I was kind of blown away. I was like, oh, wow, that's crazy. And then I bumped into him at Develop. I showed him the game again, and we ended up chatting for about half an hour. He was really into it. And this kind of cemented the idea that we could take this game somewhere, because this big games company recognized our tiny little student project, which was crazy. So the next thing to do was to get funding. And this is where Indie Fund came in. One of our lecturers sent us a list of different funding methods, and Indie Fund was one of them. And we checked out their terms on the website, and they aligned perfectly to what we were trying to achieve with our game. For those of you who don't know, Indie Fund's a collective of game industry veterans, such as Ron Carmel, Jonathan Blow, Kelly Santiago, and their aim is to help up-and-coming developers such as ourselves at the time to become financially independent. So we sent off a submission to Indie Fund, and on their website it says it usually takes about a month for them to get back to you. They got back to us within a week, and they said they really liked the game concept, and they wanted to talk further about it. So we spent about 2 months discussing budgets and schedules, and on the final deciding day, they said, yes, we want to fund you guys. And we were totally over the moon. I mean, these guys were letting us live out our dream by making our game full time. So what were we able to do with this funding? We were able to secure premises. 2 of us moved to a 2-bedroom apartment back in Newport, where we studied, and the other guy commuted in from his house. And we turned this apartment into a working space. We were able to pay salaries, hire new talent, different contractors from around the world, and attend various game events. We entered the game into mini competitions, and this enabled us to travel to events such as E3 in LA, Tokyo Game Show, PAX Prime, and a bunch of other cool events. And this was kind of a roller coaster of a year, being able to take the game to all these different places. And, meeting lots of different people in the industry, checking out all these cool events such as Valve's headquarters, PodCap Studios, and also picked up a few awards and nominations. So this was kind of the pinnacle of what we were doing at the time. However, it all sounds kind of rosy there, but really behind the scenes there were quite a few tough times ahead. And at one stage we were running out of funding, the development cycle was coming to an end, and we were kind of panicking, and Indie Fund said, hey, we think you guys need to take another 3 to 6 months and really polish the game out. And we'd been working on the game for quite a while at this point, and we thought, we just want to get the game out now, it's coming to that point. But we thought, these guys know what they're talking about, we should probably listen to them. And they said, we'll give you some extra cash to really finish the game and get it out there. So that was kind of lucky. Of course, during the second half of development, there was a typical crunch process. We spent countless of hours at night just working on the game, and there was kind of a feud between the team, arguments with the strike and that kind of thing. But at the same time, we would order pizza and we would spend long hours working together, and it felt like we were in this together. It was almost us against the world kind of feeling behind it. And then we had to push back the release, unfortunately, because we were looking to launch around Christmas time, and that's when all the big AAA titles come out. So it was hard to communicate with Valve to launch the game around that time. And in a panic state, we thought, okay, all the fans are waiting for the game. What are we going to do? We just launched on the smaller platforms first, which was a kind of terrible idea, and pushed back Steam till January. But luckily, things turned out for the best, I think. The game went on sale on the 6th of January 2012. We initially borrowed $90,000 from Indie Fund, and we were able to pay them back within 4 days or so. So Cube had opened the doors for many new opportunities. The Director's Cut version, which is a revamped version of the game, is coming to console later this year, in a few months. We had the box game in shops in Germany, and this was pretty much the icing on the cake to walk into a shop and see the game on stands and everything. And we really did this mainly for the novelty of it, because retail is hard to make money in that element now. So And a collector's bundle is coming out with this cool little glove figurine and a t-shirt and the boxed edition. And I've also been able to set up a second company based on lessons learned. The second company is called Mudvark. And you might be thinking, why did I set up another company? Well, there's kind of a few creative differences between myself and the team, and I wanted to do one thing, they wanted to do something else. So I thought the best thing to do is maybe just set up the second thing. And I took my profits from Cube and put it into this new company and employed another uni friend, Henry Hoffman, who created a game called Mush, which is out on Windows Phone 7, I think. And he did a similar thing with his team, so we thought, let's just collaborate and do something together. So we do indie dev, and we did a bit of contract work to begin with. And I kind of set up this studio on the proviso that we were getting this large work-for-hire gig, and we thought with profit from this gig, we can then self-fund our own indie games. And this project was taking much longer to secure than we expected, and I'd already taken Henry on. So in this time, we had to be developing something else. Microsoft actually got in touch with us, and they said, Windows 8 is coming out. Do you guys have a game that you could launch? We might be able to give you some promotion on the platform. We didn't really consider this before. We thought, okay, let's see what we can do. Let's see what we can create. We created this game called Mortimer within 3 months. And it's kind of a cross between Angry Birds and Super Meat Boy. It's a crazy little game. And the game came out December 2012. And we managed to get a feature spot by Microsoft, and it became the #1 free app in the US on the Windows Store. And I think it's had over 1 million downloads to date. I'll show you a quick trailer of this now. And then Watermelon got taken up by a publisher who gave us an advance, and then they put that game onto iOS and Android. And that's kind of bridged the gap between Watermelon and then this other game we did this was the work-for-hire project. It's called Waterworks. It's an educational game, sort of like SimCity, where you distribute water to towns and manage that process. And with this project, we were able to take on a few contractors and spend about 8 months building this game. So that was pretty cool. And then these previous projects, we had enough profit to start work on another title and do some more game prototyping of our own backs. And on the latest game, which I'm going to show in a bit, we recently got some investment for that just to share the risk. I'll go into more details of that soon. So that's basically my story of going from student to indie. Now I'm going to talk to you a bit more detail about the actual experiences of each of those various methods of funding. So Indie Fund, they were really great to work with. They pretty much give you the money and let you get on with it. And they give you lots of good advice, but it's up to you whether you take it or leave it, and you're never really pressured into doing something, which is awesome. The business terms are really good. I think they've changed now since when we were with them, but I think the terms are that you pay the investment back once you made that, and then you pay 25% until they've doubled what they gave you. Or after 2 years, that debt just gets wiped if you haven't made that money back. So I think that's pretty good. And nice and simple 3-page contract or something like that. Very good. So I think one of the key reasons we were successful in securing the funding with them is what they said was 90% of the original applicants wanted ideas on paper or watermark trailers, and we had we had a solid demo that they could actually play and experience. And I think there was about 200 applicants in that first round, and they funded 3 different titles. The other 2 were Monaco and Shadow Physics. So I think that's a big thing. I also like to think, I said to them in the pitch of the application that we were students, so we could live cheaply. I think that helped things along because it lowered the financial risk. So now you can't actually apply directly to IndieFund. They've actually hired a team of scouts. I think it's John Pulse, Kelly Wallen, and Simon Ferrari, who go out and hunt down new innovative games. So really, you want to get onto their radar, and if you're trying to get indie funding, and to do that, you need to attend different events, promote your game, just generally get it out there. So self-funding, I think really, if you can self-fund your game, that's the best way to do it because you have 100% of the game, and that's just awesome. You have complete creative control, and there's risk versus reward. Obviously, if you're starting out, I think it's much harder because you're putting all your eggs in that one basket, and if you haven't really proven to yourself, then it's very challenging. So I think it's tough, but the reward always pays off if the game does well. At the same time, if the game doesn't achieve the success you hoped, then it might be quite hard to do. But yeah, financial independence, I think, is the key element to that. Work for hire was pretty good. We did this big game contract. I think quite a few studios, they do the work for hire stuff and their own IP on the site, which can be good, but at the same time, work for hire has to take priority. So sometimes your personal work gets put on the back burner and you get stuck in a rut, and that's very hard to get out of. I've known a few studios recently that have shut down because their original goal was to self-fund and do their own projects, but then the team grew and they've got to take on work for hire stuff, and it's really hard to do. But I think it was actually Dan Pinchbeck from the Chinese Room who said they could have done work for hire, but they really wanted to just make their own game, so they cut to the chase and secured funding with IndieFund and did that, and it was a success. Working with a publisher was pretty cool, but I don't think anything is going to be IndieFund in that sense. But the publisher of pubs we work with, they might take creative control and they want you to do different things with the game. But I think as a developer, you need to really push back on those points and say, well, I don't think this should be the game for X reason, and so forth. I know some mobile publishers, they went to 10 games, and 2 of those games are a success, and they just can the rest. And if you're one of those games, it's really challenging because they don't really give you any funding to begin with, and if the game makes no money, it's hard to come back from that. It's tough. Now I'm going to be talking about the latest game we're working on. It's called Hue, and you may have seen it in the showcase room I've been showing there. And I'm going to talk to you about how we got investment for this particular game and the processes we went through. So I think it was about a year ago we produced 3 different game design pitches with 3 ideas that we really liked. One was Fit for a King, one was Hue, and one was Stagefront. Very different games, and we thought, well, the whole reason we thought, let's create 3 ideas is that we can take to different publishers and investors, and there's 3 chances that they're going to like one of them. And that turned out to be correct. And one publisher liked Fit for a King, another one liked Hue. So we kind of put the ball in our court, and we thought we could pick the right project that was correct for us at the time. We ended up going with Hue, and the publisher asked us to create a short prototype. So yeah, it's Hue, 2D puzzle platformer where you change the background color to make it disappear. And showing them that that prototype really solidified the pitch and sold the idea to them, and they're like, yeah, let's fund you guys. So the next thing we did was refine the art style. We gave it much more line work and more intricate detail, making it much more unique. So that's the crux of what we did to secure funding for that. I think the key points to take away, in my opinion, is that to create a professional pitch document, I think really selling the idea to someone, and we hired an artist for this and made sure the documents were high quality, not just simple text on paper. And then, of course, a solid game prototype, because an idea on paper might not always work out to be that good as a game. So I think those two go hand in hand with each other and really can sell an idea. And I think confidence is a big key to putting your game in front of investors. And of course, if it's your first title, it can be tough because you don't really have a track record. But I think if you just believe in your idea and believe in yourself, I think it's a powerful thing. One example was on the call to Indie Fund, the initial call. We were pretty nervous because Indie Fund is like veteran game developers, and we were just students, and we thought, okay, what are we doing with this? We got one of my friends, Pete Marsh, on board, and he's a very outgoing person, very social guy, and he was at the call, and he was very good at speaking to them. And after the call, they said to us, well, that Pete guy, he didn't really know the details about the game, but he was very confident and very enthusiastic about the project, and that's what really sold the idea and pushed things forward. So I think that's a key thing. And then, of course, put yourself, put your game out there, attend different events, go and speak to people in the network. I think that's a powerful thing. But yeah, I mean, previously I never thought I'd be pitching games. I guess I got scared about that kind of thing. Like, I always thought it would be sort of Dragon's Den-esque, where everyone's staring at you and then you've got to be as confident as you can. So those are some key points to take away, I think. And really, there are many other ways of funding a game. Those are just the points that I've done in my experience. You can do a Kickstarter, for example. You can do government grants. Say we're looking at grants for this. We've got colorblind mode integrated from the beginning, and there might be some grants for that, or other things such as people for deaf. And you could do other things like move home with your parents, for example, just to save a bit of cash. It's always an option, but think outside the box. It's not always the main funding available. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Just shoot me an email or follow me on Twitter. And I've also recently started a YouTube channel which gives tips and tricks on creating and shipping an indie game. But yeah, that's pretty much the talk. Thanks for watching, and we're doing a Q&A now.
How many prototypes or smaller games did you make before Cube?
For Cube, not too many actually. We did other student projects. My second year, for example, we worked with a team of 10 people, 5 designers and 5 programmers. But Cube was really the first thing I worked on.
Hi. You mentioned that during the development of Cube, while you were a student, you thought of going to a big company, a AAA company, and work there. So, did you ever consider that you would develop Cube further after it finished as a student project?
No, the thought had never even crossed our minds. I don't think. We thought it was just a student project. It would stay like that. I don't know why we didn't think about it. I guess maybe we didn't have the confidence, or we didn't know how to go about it. Everything we did, we learned as we went on. So yeah, it kind of turned out the best. Any more questions? No. Cool. All right. Well, yeah. Thanks, everyone.